Welcome to another episode of the Jersey Podcast. I'm your host, Darian Kelly. Today, I have a very special guest on the show today, Fred Underwood. Fred is a sports and tech consultant with Dream Big Sports. He is also the host of Powerhouse Conversations podcast. Fred, thank you for coming on to the show.
No, thank you. I appreciate you having me on. I'm excited to have this conversation. So let's have a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to get kick things off. So just to start, man, just catch me up. Just how has the summer been for you? I know that in the you're a podcaster as well. I know how that life is. A lot of moving pieces. Like, how has things been? For you, like these last couple of months so far.
No, it's been busy, but it's been exciting, right? So it's a lot of different things going on. Between juggling, the podcast, the corporate job, the family, everything of that nature. It's been a lot, but it's been very exciting. I got to go to the I think you went as well to the ESPN Black Symposium, so that was very exciting and inspiring. So that was a part of my summer, but it's really just been laying the groundwork and really growing on the podcast and going all in on just getting out the message and growing people's brands.
Absolutely. And we were talking about a little bit about this offline, but you said that you were, from Alabama originally. And just doing my homework on your background, I know that you were a ball player, but particularly within basketball.
Yep.
Talk to me about, like, what were some of your earliest memories kind of growing up in Alabama and playing basketball? Like, what was that like for you growing up?
Yeah. So even going back further than that, like
Okay.
I'm a military brat, right? So
Okay.
I lived all over. I was born in Georgia, moved to Texas, moved to Germany, and then I moved to Alabama. So my family's from Alabama, and then like I said, grew up in Alabama. But yeah, some of those early days, man, it was just like I said, I'll go back to like being in Germany. Me and my best friend used to run the steps and that overseas, and like we played in these Germany leagues and stuff
Wow.
like that. So that exposed me early on to overseas they really take their basketball, their sports serious, right? And they're starting them playing on their clubs at an early age, and so we got to experience that and play for some of those club teams. So it's a lot different than the AAU scene
Right.
versus their club teams. They're like playing. They're it's like the farm system for their professional teams over there. So that was pretty cool. That was a cool experience. Being in Germany playing basketball.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't really get that experience. Like, I know for me, like going back to, I studied abroad when I was a junior in college. I studied in Nicosia, Cyprus. So when I was over there, just playing pickup basketball and just kind of how, like, they say that even just people that were playing for the school, like, it's different. Like, overseas is different. Like, even from not even just basketball to even soccer, like they start
Yeah.
out at a real young age at academies, and they just, it's like like you say, it's like a farm or a pipeline, into the professional leagues. So
Yep.
talk to me a little bit about, initially what I was reading was that you initially, were working to, within basketball, looking to, what everybody does who has hoop dreams to get that Division I scholarship.
Mhm.
Ultimately, things didn't go as planned. Talk to me a little bit about, like, what was going on, during that time as you were pursuing, that scholarship, and how were you able to kind of shift? It said that you were able to kind of, as things didn't pan out, you were able to kind of shift into more so focusing on academics. Take me
Yep.
back to that time and, like, what was what was going on back then.
Yeah, man. So I went and played junior college basketball down near Mobile, Alabama.
Okay.
Had a pretty good season, a decent season. I had the opportunity to go to walk on at UAB with my best friend. He played down in the Florida Panhandle really good, and
Okay.
we had a connection, and I had the opportunity to go play, but I didn't have the grade. I didn't take, well, not even that I didn't have the grades. I didn't take the right courses. So you know how that clearinghouse stuff works, and basically I wasn't going to be eligible. So I made a transition. I went to a D3 school, didn't like it. And I ended up going getting a academic scholarship to go to Alabama State University, my alma mater. And I went all in on just business. I had a mentor that took me under his wing. He would take me to different conferences, and that was my first time being exposed to to Black professionals, like at the C-suite level, at all these major corporations and things of that nature. So he took me under his wing. I really got to see how the business side of things work. And yeah, ever since then, I was locked in on trying to understand how to merge sports and business.
Yeah, and I think that that's something that, a lot of people who are, in college, right? Ultimately, not everybody makes it, or not everybody makes it to that point where they can play their sport at a high level, but you were able to make that shift and more so focus on not just your academics, but the professional development piece. And you said that you had mentors and you had that exposure to, black professionals from the C-suite position. What was that like for you? Like, what were some of the lessons that you were able to learn at that particular, age? Because you're in college, you're just trying to figure it out.
Right.
But
Right.
what were some of the lessons that you were able to learn from your mentors at that time?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest lesson is just believe in yourself, right? So like just understanding that there are people that came before you that are doing these things, and to believe that whenever you walk into a room that you're very capable. So I learned that, hey, I have, I have the utmost confidence in my work ethic, and if I put in the work, then I'm going to be prepared whenever I walk in the room.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that belief is key because, oftentimes, it's not easy when especially in the sports realm, right? Everyone kind of has their own lane. You can kind of compare. But if you know what you bring to the table and you have that belief and confidence, it allows for you to excel, like you said, in any room that, you transition into. So as far as, your experiences in college, you were able to transition and ultimately get the idea behind, Dream Big Sports. Talk to
Mhm.
me about, how did that come about in a sense?
Yep. So it initially started as a nonprofit. Like, so basically, what my idea was, I used my experience of, hey, like I didn't have the right like a mentor in the sport to help me understand what to do. Right. So and I come from a small town, Montgomery, Alabama, where it's not a lot of professional, it's not a lot of NBA players and things of that nature that made it out. So the professionals that we did have that play overseas, that the couple that did play in the NBA, I wanted to make sure I was able to create that pipeline and merge and give them the opportunity to mentor other kids that are going to be coming through those same hallways, those same gyms that they came through. So I did, as we started Dream Big Sports. We did camps, and we also did a program. And it's, something like that hadn't been seen before and hasn't been seen since. We were able to get different NBA level players and come down to our program. We got kids connected with scholarships, and a lot of the best kids that came through our camp ended up getting D1 scholarships later on, because of the mentorship and because of the relationships that they were able to build, and be able to see what that work ethic looks like up close. Because a lot of these kids think that, they think it's just easy, right? But then when you get in front of these players that can really play, it's a lot different, and then you see what it took to get to where they're at.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing is the giving back piece as far as the mentorship, right? Like kind of similar to you, like growing up. I grew up in Baltimore City, where we had a couple guys that have made it, from Sam Cassell's, the Carmelo Anthony's, right? But those, everybody in between, as far as in like coming back and sharing that knowledge, it meant everything, to be able to go to a camp, to be able to speak to someone and have them say, hey, like this is what you need to do to get there. And then
Right.
I think that, oftentimes, when you're young and you're coming up and you want to, get into athletics or just into the sports industry in general, you know, you don't really see the impact on those things. You don't see them when you're a child, but as you grow up, it's like, wow, like I remember when I saw so-and-so coming and he was able to, speak with the camp, or he was able to
Yep.
share his wisdom. So those little things, make a difference. And I'm glad you're able to kind of touch on like how, that, ultimately, that impact is not just that in the here and now, but it's years down the line, how it impacts the youth. So I'm right
Yep.
on board with you as far as that.
Yep.
Were there any particular challenges that you had when you were starting this nonprofit, right? I think, some people, that aren't necessarily in the nonprofit space don't understand how much work you have to put in from the event planning standpoint
Yep.
to making sure everybody is scheduled on point. what were some of those challenges that you had to endure and had to overcome when you were starting this
Yeah,
platform?
the biggest challenge is from a funding standpoint, right? Because you're working without the funds, so you're that's where I learned to be able to go obtain sponsorships and utilize other companies to everybody thinks of, okay, well, hey, I don't have money, right? What my idea is, hey, you can't give me money. Hey, I went to Subway, can you give me sandwiches to feed the kids at the camp? Hey, went to Pepsi. Hey, can you give me Gatorade to give the kids at the camp? So you don't have to get, you don't always, it doesn't always have to come from money. It also comes from just partnerships and helping them see the value in what you're going to bring. Hey, you're going to get sponsorship ad space on this camp where there's going to be a lot of eyes from the local media. Hey, can you just give me, like, you're probably gonna salvage a lot of this stuff out anyway. Like, let me get some of it, let me get some of this stuff. So it was just going around, making sure I made connections and being very creative in how I went about things.
And then also too for you, like, like you said, the last thing you said about making those connections. What were some of the, when you had that first experience of building it from a nonprofit standpoint, what are some tips or things or advice you can give to people, not even just in the nonprofit space, but just as they're building their career, starting out from a relationship standpoint? How important, are relationships and development, also cultivating them over time? Like, what's some advice you can share on that?
Man, my biggest advice would be, when you network, just make sure that you keep your name clean and make sure that you do good work, right? And if everybody understands that you are about your business and you're adding value, add value first is probably the biggest thing that I would say is lead with value. Everybody wants something. If you're always looking to take something, then people aren't going to be as willing to give, right? But if you come in and you show what your value is, then that's when people will that relationship and that network will grow, because, okay, hey, I know Fred can help me with XYZ. I'm going to give them a call. And then, so when you give them a call because you want a partner, then that is going to be much more advantageous for both of you all to be able to make whatever you're trying to do happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that was it sounds like when you said add value, it made me think of when I was listening to Earn Your Leisure, and I
Mhm.
think it was Rashad who was like, when you're networking, listen first. Like, one of the key things about networking is listening, and then see where you can add value. It's like,
Yep.
if you just leave your car, give your car, that's gonna get thrown out anyway. It's
Right.
okay, you do, graphic design. Oh, wow. I got, listen, okay, this is how I can add value to that. Do you know this person? You know that person? And ultimately that's how relationships are cultivated, like you said, through
Yep.
adding value. Like, that's key.
Yep. I'll even go back to, like you said, when I talked about, like, being under my mentor's wings and going to these conferences where I'm the 21-year-old, and these are 40-year-old men that was in their career. It's just about listening and understanding what they need.
Mm.
And when they need something, they know they can call on you because, hey, oh, you're the guy that does digital marketing.
Mm.
You're the guy that does this. And, like, for example, like my mentor who used to take me to these different conferences and things of that nature, like, I've helped him build his organization for years and never asked for a dime, just from a digital marketing standpoint, me just adding value and me also being able to get in these rooms, right? So I'm adding value. Hey, you're good at digital marketing. You're good at technology. You're good at whatever. I'm going to put you in these rooms with these other C-suite, these other people that you can learn from, and not even from a job perspective. Like, just me being able to learn from these people is invaluable. So I like, he can call me whenever and ask me to do whatever, and I'm always going to pick up the phone and do, because he gave me an opportunity when I didn't even see it, right? So and that taught me to lead with value.
Absolutely. I wanted to shift gears a little bit towards name, image, and likeness.
Yep.
From your perspective, how opportunity rich is the digital, transformation of brands for student athletes in this current environment? Talk a little bit about that.
And I think it is an opportunity that is going to be very advantageous, especially for black people, right? Because in when you look at it, how the NCAA was able to capitalize off of us, because you think about the money making sports, right? The basketball, the football, even if you want to go to baseball, right? They've been able to make all this money all these years and not have to pay athletes. Now the athletes have their control, and they are able to go out and pursue opportunities and pursue money and pursue ways that they can eat forever. Because the biggest thing that I think that people aren't really looking at is building their own brand. Because in the past, especially with football,
Okay.
if you is when they're done playing for those 4 years, if they don't make it to the NFL, then their money making opportunity is gone. But if you spend 4 years being able to build a personal brand and build relationships, that can go into media opportunities. It can go into big deals that you may create on your own. It may go into creating your own sports brand, your own sports merch. There's so many different ways that you can capitalize. Even we can get into this a little later, but NFTs, like there are ways that they can capitalize that from years in perpetuity. So I think it's a very big opportunity for these athletes to be able to capitalize on.
Yeah, and you touched on something in the beginning, when you were talking about, especially Black athletes, and I was having a conversation with a mentor about this and how, when we think of sports culture, we often put sports before the culture, but it's the culture first that influences sports, right? You think about what would sports be without, like, if I tell you, if I say, something like the Miami Hurricanes or something like that at the 80s, right? Automatically what's going to pop in your head is those highlights. It's going to be that swagger, right? Just that,
Yep.
and that's just one example. So
Yep.
when we look at it from the inverse of culture and how that impacts sports, you talk about brand building. How important is the authenticity in brand building, right, for athletes? Speak to that, when it comes to them staying true and authentic to who they are when it comes to building these brand partnerships.
So it's extremely important, because when you think about it, that's why they want you, because they want you because of you, because of what you bring to the table. It gives us the opportunity to be paid for being yourself, because the partnerships have to make sense. They have to be something that is a collaboration, and not just, okay, well, I just want to use your space. And that's something that they also need to be very mindful of, is that don't take what was going on with the NCAA, where they was using you, and then now you're letting these big brands use you, right?
Right.
It has to make sense. So we don't want to go from one from the one slave master to another one, right? You don't want to hop off one plantation and go to another one. So I think the other thing is that you have to make sure that you're being authentic to yourself, to your point, and then making sure that they are going to be authentic to you.
Yeah, and also too, I was it's killing me. I'm drawing a blank, but there was a specific podcast that was talking about how, on top of what you mentioned as far as learning about brand building and learning how to, negotiate, learning how to relationship build for the long term, as far as going back to like that whole, the whole idea of a letter of intent, right? When we think about like letter of intent, right? That, you can, we probably get to a point now where you can adjust that to fit your needs, right? It's not just a 3 to 4 year requirement. We say football or even basketball with this whole, one and done situation. It's like,
Right.
what can I get out of this, that's going to help, benefit myself? So it's so many different, NIL is so many different moving parts, but it's like if the athlete isn't informed or educated on how they can really maximize it, not just from a brand standpoint, from a skill development standpoint, then I think that it's going to do more harm than good in this sense.
Yep.
Understand that
Yep.
education behind it.
Yep, having the right people around you, having the right mentors, having the right mind frame, right? Because a lot of people are going to, just get this money and not really understand how to use it long term, but also how to not let it distract you from what you're getting paid to do,
Right.
or not getting paid to do because it's not pay for play, but
Right.
what gave you the platform to get paid, right? That I think that's the biggest thing. Like, you still have to take care of business on the field, on the court, and still understand how to balance that. And so what I think that we have a unique opportunity is that these kids have personality. So
Mhm.
if you're just on social media being yourself, if you're just finding companies to help actually do the job that you don't have to do, and you just be yourself and you show up, then that's where the sweet spot is for NIL. Is not that, hey, now you're going to be focused on completely business. No, but you're going to put a team around you that allows you to be a business entity and
Mhm.
allows you to capitalize on what you are bringing to the table.
Absolutely. And, switching gears over to kind of back to yourself, we want to talk about the topic of brand building. You have a brand, personal brand yourself, and you're wearing it right now on your t-shirt, hustle for your last name. And that's
Mhm.
more than just, it's more than just a t-shirt. It's more than just the merchandise. It's a mindset. What does, hustle for your last name, mean to you, from a sense, like what made you come up, what made you say like, okay, this is what I want to define as my personal brand.
Right, right. Yeah. So Hustle for Your Last Name came, like I said, I'm always merging sports and business, right? So I took a term hustle, and it fits both. Like, hustle is something that you do in sports, you gotta hustle, but
Yep.
in business, you have to hustle, right? And then you think about it from the standpoint of like you're hustling for your last name and leaving the legacy. Like, people in the past they were just hustling for, hey, for me, right?
Right.
All I care about is Fred, but no, it's about the name on the back of the jersey, and the people that you're going to be bringing behind you, and the legacy that you can create and you can build. So like I said, it's about, merging that mindset and that mentality, that you're going to work as hard as you can to leave a legacy for the people that come behind you.
Yeah, and I think that's so important because a lot of us that are, that have platforms, we're first generation. We're coming from families that, some of them aren't as educated, or some of them, don't have the access as necessary. So when we do have our platforms, we gotta move accordingly. And like you said, hustling for your last name, it's like, it's about being a servant. It's about understanding that it means more than just you. And I think that we often overlook that, when we, whether it's the praise that we get, or, whether it's the little bit, the success that we get over time, we have to always keep it to perspective that it's not about us, it's about the next generation, it's about who we can inspire. So that's what I love about that brand that you have. And also speak to how important it is for, sports professionals to have a brand, right? So your
Right.
brand doesn't just have to, be, what you are, exhibiting, but it's how you approach life. Like, how important
Yep.
is for like young sports professionals enter into the industry as far as brand building?
Yeah, so I mean, it's very important because your brand is what speaks for you when you're not there.
Mm,
What are people going to say about you when you're not in the room?
mm,
How would people describe you when they're talking to someone else?
right.
And that brand is going to be what you're going to be able to stand on.
Mm,
I think that it's important, especially like we said in this NIL space, is because that's how people are going to view you, and that's how people are going to, that when they want to attach their brand to your brand, it
mm,
has to match up. So it matches up both ways. So your brand has to mean something, and their brand has to match what you are establishing with your brand. So if it doesn't match, then you don't need to attach yourself to that company.
absolutely. For you, just from a balance perspective, right? You have, Dream Big Sports. You also have your podcast. And you also have your corporate, your corporate position. How do you balance all of that? And what advice can you give to individuals who are kind of similar to you that have ventures that they're building, but they also have a 9 to 5? Like, what are some tips to balancing the two and kind of giving your all into what you're focused on?
Yep, I think the biggest tip is cliches at times, but it's gonna have you have to have some type of passion behind what that's going to be, right? And you have to have a plan and goals that you're going to set for
Right,
what you're doing.
right,
I think the biggest thing is as well, my corporate job is something that I also enjoy. So I took the skills that I took from my corporate job, and I'm doing them for my brand and my business that I've been building for these, this past decade.
Right.
And I think that's something that is important, and that's going to keep you actually being able to stay up after you get off of work, and work on whatever you're doing, is being able to understand that you love what you're doing, and you actually have a passion behind it. And then I would also say the mindset,
Mm,
uh like keeping your mind strong. I meditate, I do yoga, I make sure I'm praying,
right.
I'm making sure that I'm keeping my mind clear and focused on what's important. So I think that's very big, is making sure that you keep a sound mind, and keep focused on what your goals are.
Yeah, and I think that's key because I you're seeing a lot right now, just in the industry. I'm in the tech industry, you're in the tech industry as well. Like there's a lot of movement. Some people are kind of unhappy with where they are, and I think oftentimes in some cases, like, not a lot of people are fortunate to be in a position where they actually love what they're doing. I think oftentimes people have jobs where, it's always like everything's transactional, right?
Right.
Put in this time and I'm going to get this out of it. Like it's not a
Yeah.
love, it's not a labor of love. So it's like refreshing to hear someone, kind of speak to that, right? Because I think a lot of people, we live in a time where it's like, I don't even like what I'm doing. I'm just doing this for the check, or I'm just doing this to
Right.
get type of return. Whereas though we often we overlook the skills that we can actually apply to from what we do day to day
Yep.
into building our dreams and goals. And I think that that's something that's often overlooked, especially with young professionals.
Yep. Yep. You got to find those, even in jobs that you hate, you got to find transferable skills.
Mm,
One of like my first job out of college was a job that I hated,
wow.
but I think it laid the foundation for, or the work ethic. Like,
Mm,
so I worked at Cintas. I had to wake up at four in the morning and get on a truck, and go deliver uniforms and mats and aprons and dirty, like, so I hated it.
right.
Cold weather, hot weather, all of that. But it taught me discipline, and it taught me work ethic. Like, it taught me that I have to do what I have to do to get where I'm trying to go. Right. So even when I despise what I'm doing, I'm still I was still working to be the best. So even when I was on those routes, I have awards back there from being at a job that I hated, but I was going to excel at the job that I hated, and maximize my money. And then I was blessed with the opportunity to come on with AT&T, and the rest was history after that, of being able to do something that I enjoy. And then, like I said, you know I I I go through every day, and everything that I'm doing is something that, like, I would do anyway. Like, I'm going. My job is to talk to people about their business, and help them with their technology. I would do that for free.
Mm,
Like, I don't have that. I know a lot of people are anti 9 to 5,
mm.
but when you find out what your skill set is, and find out what you're good at, and then you find something that is going to pay you to do that, then that's where you find that happy medium.
Absolutely. And you mentioned, talking what you do on a day-to-day basis as far as talking to people about business as well as technology. Talk about just how, at this particular time, we talk about sports, talk about technology, how some of the things, or how, I guess, what are the benefits of being in this space, right? Where you can, what are some of the things that you're able to, rep at or gain skills at by being in the tech space that allow for you to kind of go from there to have conversations with, whether it's organizations, whether it's young athletes that are, that are maybe curious about getting into the tech space and merging their sports backgrounds. What are some of the things you can like take away from that is allowed for you to merge the two worlds between sports and technology?
Yeah. I think the one of the biggest things is like, people in the past. I mean, and it's getting a lot better, but people used to look at owning a business as just this big goal, this big thing that was unattainable. And what I come to find out was a lot of these people that are running these businesses aren't any smarter than any
Mm,
of the people that we grew up with, in the hood or wherever you grow up at,
right.
right? These people that are owning these businesses, they're just regular people, right? So the what I found was is that from either it be a business or a person,
Right.
you're a business entity.
Right.
So I saw those similarities, and I was like, okay, well, I'm going in, and I'm going in from a holistic approach,
Mm,
talking to them about their business and how technology can help them be more efficient, help them find more revenue, help them go through their day and make sure that they're getting the most value out of it. So and I took those same concepts and I merged it into athletes. Hey, how can I amplify you and your goals of playing this sport, and make sure that you're able to monetize it as best as possible,
mm.
and use those same concepts to do so.
Absolutely. And also to talk about, as far as your work with athletes and organizations, I know that Dream Big Sports has, grown from what it was, from
Mhm.
the nonprofit side to where it's at now
Right.
as a consultancy. Talk about some of the services that you offer within Dream Big Sports.
Yep. So right now we and like you said, making the transition into talking to a lot of the NIL space. So that's the main consultant piece that we're focusing on right now, and that's going through, like I said, digital transformation, helping with digital marketing, helping with some of those videographies, telling helping you tell your story,
Mm,
getting some of these systems together so you can when somebody is trying to reach out to you for an NIL deal, you have everything together. You have a website together. You have your email together. You have your outreach, and you're running it like a business. Whether that be helping connect you with a graphic designer, and then even from the standpoint of helping some of these athletes get into the NFT space is one of the things that I'm looking forward to as well. And I think that's going to be a good opportunity for them, and just finding different ways that they can utilize and leverage technology
mm.
to build their personal brand and go from there.
Yeah, you mentioned the NFT space. How, from your vantage point in the work that you're doing, how impactful is the NFT space when you talk about that and working closely with athletes? Like, how opportunity rich is that space?
Yeah, so it's very new. It's at the infancy stage, right? So it's not it's something that's going to be grown, and it's going to have to take some time to really figure it out. And that's why I want to make sure that I'm partnering with as many people that are familiar with the space as possible. But when we talk about the opportunity, it's really about we talk about ownership.
Right.
It allows them to own something, and then be able to have other people that are invested in them actually own a piece of that as well, and then making sure that they are giving value. I talked about that earlier.
Right.
NFTs puts them in a position to give some value to the fans, and versus in the past, it was just one sided. Hey, they cheer for you for these 4 years. They like you, and they see you. They see you and a couple of years later, and it's like, oh yeah, I remember cheering for him,
Right.
and he may be struggling or something of that nature. But if you're cheering for me now as a sophomore or junior, and I create this NFT, and I let's just say the utility behind that is, oh, I go to lunch, or it's bowling with I go bowling with some of the let's just use University of Alabama, some of the University of Alabama fans, and that they get the 4 years that I'm on campus. Every year I have a bowling event, and anybody who invests in my NFT, they get to go to this bowling event with me. That's a way that they can actually monetize their brand that people love them for. And even after they are finished, they can they can create another NFT and change the utility for something else that the fans might want. Oh, I come back and sign your University of Alabama jersey. I come back on campus and do whatever. So it just gives them the opportunity. I think it's really one of the best ways that they can be creative using technology moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the two of the things that stuck out was the ability to have ownership and equity, because I see a lot of like, NIL deals that take place, but most of the time we don't know if there's equity that is talked about. Sometimes it's just, it's more than just, receiving money and then taking a picture or going to an event. And you also talk about the opportunity to create community. I think that
Yep.
that's key as well, because we're bonded. Sports is a community within itself. But if you take an athlete, it's like the athlete has its own community, like beyond just Instagram following, right? It's like if you're able to follow me and you go to my games, like you said, then you should have confidence in investing in something that that you can have a piece of equity in as well. So
Yep.
it's all interrelated in a sense. And I'm like it. I think that we don't, I feel like that even though it's new, it's still a area that I think people need to tap into more.
Right, right. And really it's about monetizing that community, right? So not that that's the only thing, but the
Right,
community is built in general anyway. You have, like, if you're a big time player, you're going to have a fan base.
right,
But now you're able to actually monetize that fan base that you have, and
right,
they're able to grow with you. And if you're, like you said, if you're doing it the right way and you're actually really building community, you're able to touch those people and you're able to do things to connect with them, right? And they're
right.
going to feel more invested in you. And especially if they've invested their money and you invest your time, or you invest your insight with them, then that's something that's going to allow them to feel more connected. And then when they're investing in your future as well.
Mm,
Because let's just say, like you said, they you build a community and all these people are in your community and you actually do go pro.
right.
Now that NFT that they purchased at that early stage, when they did believe in you, when you were a college kid, now they're going to actually be able to monetize and capitalize off of that when you make it to the pros. And I think it really goes to, in the past, it was just about more so like almost bragging rights, right? You like,
Mm,
oh yeah, I was a fan of him when he was in college, right? And that's
mhm.
all that's all it was. But now you can really say, oh, I was a fan of him, and I believed in him, and I invested in him. And that's really going to be able to show people, what really the power of community is.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Wanted to shift into, more so, you're the host of Powerhouse Conversations. Talk to me about that platform, and why is that necessary, particular, like what made you start it and what's the importance of
Yeah, so I mean, what made me start it is, like, to told you, I go back to things that I would do just out of the passion of doing it, right? So the
it?
same conversations that I was having with people in general, I was like, hey, I can have these conversations that are going to help other people, and help them get to where they're trying to go. And like I said earlier about, I really thought about the fact that, when I was going to these people in these businesses and realizing that, hey, this is not something that is unattainable, I wanted to make sure that the listeners and the viewers were able to hear these conversations
Mm,
and hear how they go from a business perspective, right? So taking the sports and then helping people understand that the business side of it is not that complicated. It's just conversations that we need to be having anyway. And those are the conversations that I was having. So I thought they were powerful. So I merged it in, and Powerhouse Conversations was birthed.
Yeah, and I think that that's key, because when we talk about like the sports business, like we often, in our community, we grow up as sports fans, right? We don't really grow up understanding the business side of it. I know for me, like, when I was growing up, and that's why, kind of going back to what we talked, what you mentioned way early in the conversation about, going to the, Black Sports Business Symposium, through ESPN, was that I didn't, when I was in college and even before that, like, when I was a little kid, like there weren't like VPs of marketing from the Ravens coming to speak at my school, or
Yeah.
people that are working in HR that were trying to hire people in sports coming to my college, for career day, or we
Right.
didn't see that. I didn't really
Right.
learn that sports was a business until pretty much like I'm just finishing up grad school. Like that's what I'm studying now. So I
Right.
think it's important that when we have these platforms, especially like Powerhouse Conversations, where we're talking about the business side of things, I think that's key, because you look at somebody who, could be coming up now and, let's say they may not want to, go to school route, but they still want to get into sports, or they still want to get into the business side. They can tap into, Powerhouse conversations and actually, learn something. Like even me, when I was doing the background, and preparing for the show, like I was listening to your past two shows, one referring to, why aren't there, in baseball, why there aren't more like Black athletes in baseball, and even with esports, which are like two, you think about right now, those are two of the, the topics that are being talked about, right? When we talk about gaming, right? I'm pretty sure everybody saw that $1 billion worth of game with T Grizzly, when he's talking about, man, I made X amount of money off a game. You know what I mean? We come from a time where, coming up, it was like, get off that game, or, play the game until, your grades were intact. So it's such a unique, time period. And even with, baseball, right? You look at like, for me, like I'm learning just from the people that I've interviewed on the show, that like how, growing up, like where I'm from, like basketball and football, everything, we don't really come up playing baseball, but just kind of hearing about what's taking place, in Atlanta or in Alabama, as far as like how those pipelines are being, are being built within baseball, is even, to learn that is even eye opening. So I think that those topics, for example, you can learn a lot from that if you want to get into the sports business.
Yeah, and that's what I want to do. I want to talk about topics that even ESPN isn't talking about as much. I want to all the topics that when you turn on TV, it's about gossipy stuff, and I want to get to the meat and potatoes, and stuff that's going to change people's mindsets and help them see where there's opportunity to innovate, right? Like it just said, black players in baseball. I had an episode, previously about women in sports, making sure that we shine light on what can be done to help women get more opportunities to make it bigger. Having episodes about these different conversations where bringing on graphic designers, or bringing on, like you just said, esports, bringing on people. I interviewed someone who's a mother who started a business to help with NIL opportunities for other mothers, right? So she was a single mother, and she started a business of how to, like, from a parent's perspective, right? Everybody thinks of the child, but hey, how do the parents navigate these waters? So just taking these different opportunities, like I said, even from the NFTs, I had somebody on about that, about the first professional sports DAO, so a decentralized autonomous organization. So bringing them on and having those conversations. So I just want to always bring on unique conversations, not the fluff conversations and topics. And I want to keep pushing those stories and those topics to the forefront.
Absolutely. And also too, I know one of the things that you're working on right now, talking about NIL, is, you're releasing the Hustlers Playbook, the Player's Guide to Mastering Opportunities for Name, Image, and Likeness through Digital Transformation. Talk a little bit about that. And, I know we've been, talking about NIL, but now you're actually putting it in, transferring over into a entity in which people can consume. Let's understand like why that is important, right? Because it's one thing to kind of get it from a conversation, but then you take it from that to something that where people can digest and really learn. So it becomes educational. Talk about like how important is the education piece, and like what you're looking to add into that with the Hustlers Playbook.
Yep, my biggest thing is I want to be able to add some tangible things that they can use, right? I think a lot of people put together these products, and they're just like, oh well, hey, here's some information, and you go with it. But I'm going to bring things that are going to be tangible, right? So emails that you can use to do some outreach, right? Resumes that you can give a one pager and show, hey, this is who I am and this is how I market myself. So things that are going to be tangible and that can and that these athletes can actually use is what the Hustlers Playbook is going to bring. Like I said, it goes back to what we was talking about with the hustle for your last name, but the Hustlers Playbook is going to give them the plays that they need to make to get to the top of where they're trying to go.
Yeah, no, I think that's extremely important. I was reading, somewhere where, I forgot how long ago it was, but it was in front office sports, and they were saying that a certain percentage of college athletes, when it comes to NIL, don't even understand how to understand their taxes, how to do their taxes, or the financial, the
Yep.
literacy behind these deals. And so when you talk about, putting something like, or creating something like the Hustlers playbook, putting that in the game, I think that the education is needed, because it's like, as much as we hear all about these deals, you seldom hear about, educational courses. I'm not saying that they don't exist, but there's not a lot of light and attention brought on about how to educate yourself, about how to navigate these certain things. Like you said, resume building, how to present yourself, how to build your brand. Like all these things are very much important, in this landscape, and the education is everything.
Yep. Yep. It's gonna be very important that people are educated on what to do, how to do it, and and not be led astray by people that are just looking to grab for a money grab, right? I want to make sure I'm able to show that, like I said, I think a lot of people, I think you mentioned it earlier, but a lot of people are looking at NIL as the opportunity to get paid versus the opportunity to actually build your personal brand and leverage that personal brand for the rest of your career, the rest of your life, right? If you just focus on getting paid, they're only going to pay you for 4 years. You want to get paid for 4 years or 40 years, right? So you build your personal brand, you can get paid for 40 years. You can be a speaker. You think about like all these college athletes that maybe, let's just say somebody won the Heisman, right? They can go to their college town and get paid to speak. They can go with, like, there are different ways that you can monetize your brand long after you finish playing. But if you only focus on, hey, who can give me this quick deal, then you're missing the boat, in my opinion.
Absolutely. It's a marathon at the end of the day.
Yep.
So I'm definitely excited to for when that drops, and I know it's gonna add tremendous value to the landscape. So this portion of the interview I like to call, it's called Wearing the Jersey. So I got quick questions, and you just answer them with whatever comes
Okay.
to the top of your head. So just gonna jump right in.
Okay.
Favorite sports memory of all time?
Mine or
Yours. Your favorite
Oh,
sports.
okay. My favorite sports memory of all time was played in the college sophomore showcase in junior college.
Favorite sports movie of all time?
Ooh, Blue Chips.
That's a throwback.
Yeah.
Uh, Favorite pair of sneakers of all time?
Uh, Jordan threes.
Mm, my favorite as well. I gotta admit that. Can't go wrong with the threes. Favorite jersey of all time?
I'm gonna go AI. And I'm gonna go the black one, the black Sixers joint.
Yeah, again, we're right there. We
Yeah.
right there with it.
Yeah.
If you could work with anyone in sports, who would you want to work with?
Um, Maverick Carter.
Mm.
I love how Mav has maneuvered in the sports realm, and everybody would look at it like, okay, he had LeBron, but he's been able to build an empire, and he's the brains behind the operation, in my opinion.
Sure. Favorite book of all time?
Favorite book. Um, Favorite book, Principles by Ray Dalio.
If you could have dinner with three people, dead or alive, who would you want to have dinner with?
Uh, I'm gonna go Hove, Nipsey,
Okay.
and Kobe. Hove, Nipsey, and Kobe. That's a good one.
Who is the athlete that reflects your mindset as an entrepreneur?
Ooh. Um, you can't go wrong with Braun. I'm gonna go with Braun. I'm gonna go with Braun.
Who should I have as a guest on the show next?
Who should you have as a guest on the show next? Um, let's see. I would say I would let's go with James Sutter Cleveland. Like I said, Sports Mom University.
And that was the end of wearing a jersey. Fred, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate your time. I know that, with Dream Big Sports, I know there are a lot of things going on, but I know you're going to make a tremendous impact, in the industry. And it was a pleasure having this conversation with you. Where can everyone, find you from a social media standpoint?
Yep, everyone can find me at Dream Big Fred on all sports social media platforms. Www dbsports.tech is the website where you can you can go and find out everything that we're doing. And like I said, be on the lookout for the Hustlers Playbook. And I appreciate you for allowing me to come on and share your platform. I love what you're doing. Stay in touch.
Yeah, absolutely, friend. Thank you again for your time, and we'll be in touch. And good luck the rest of the way.
All right.